Welcome to Real Money, Real Life, the podcast where we get real about money and the messy human stuff that comes with it. I'm Linda Grizely, financial educator and your Me Money guide to financial clarity. Each week, we dive into financial concepts and money strategies, but we always tie it back to real life, emotions, mindset, and how money actually shows up day to day. If you're ready for practical tools, mindset shifts, and honest conversations that meet you where you are, not where the world thinks you should be, you're in the right place. Because you deserve to feel confident with your money and good about how you use it. No judgment, no lectures, and definitely no putting yourself last.
Hello, everyone. If you're listening, you're one of the real ones, the ones ready to rewrite the money rules and stop settling for a broken system. Today, we're talking about why the financial industry is broken and what happens when we start replacing shame-based advice with real behavioral insight. And this conversation hits close to home for me because helping women unlearn these shame-based money advice things is the heart of what I do. My guest, Lisa Chastain, brings a powerful perspective to this. Lisa also helps women ditch the budget guilt and rebuild confidence through self-trust and clarity. We'll explore why traditional finance systems don't serve women, how neurolinguistic programming, NLP, and imprinting shape our money beliefs, and why it's time to stop budgeting and start living. Lisa is a nationally recognized money expert and best-selling author, featured on CNBC, The Oprah Magazine, Fortune, Business Insider, and Forbes. With over 20 years of experience helping women take control of their finances, she's known for her fresh, no-shame approach to money. Her book, Stop Budgeting, Start Living, challenges outdated financial advice and offers a practical, empowering path to lasting confidence and clarity. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Linda.
Thanks so much for being here. I love that you're here. We have kind of the same market that we serve, but there's always a different perspective, and we can always learn so much from each other. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing more about all the things that you do and neurolinguistic programming and all that kind of stuff. So great stuff.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We're both real. We're talking about real money. So let's get into it.
Yeah, real money and real life. Like, how does your life actually come into this? Because everybody tells you what to do with your money, but they're like, that doesn't fit my life. So that's what it's all about. And I know that you're very vocal about how traditional financial advice doesn't serve real people, right?
Yeah.
So just start off with what broke the system and what are you doing to change it?
Well, specifically, traditional financial advice doesn't serve women.
Agreed.
It's a whole financial construct going right along with the patriarchy. And caveat to this, I love men and I'm an advocate for men and I love my husband. So this is not a male bashing conversation, but it's important for us to look at the history of women and how we've become who we've become as it relates to the world of money. And the system in and of itself was never designed for women to be successful financially. So that in and of itself for me is where the turning point is, because women have more money than ever. We have more power than ever. We have more control of our lives ever. And we have to break up and bust up old paradigms and ways of being with money that was designed for men to be successful with money, not women.
Yeah. All right. Let's just jump right into that. Tell me more about how it was set up, because I agree. And you're right. It's not men bashing. It's just that men are brought up to talk about money, are brought up to be in charge of money, and women are not. So tell me more about what you're talking about there about the system.
It's generational. So let's look back 7 generations. And even for us, let's look back 2 or 3 generations. So where my great-grandmother, where she came from. She lived in a world where she immigrated from Italy to the United States, but she lived in a world in the United States where women couldn't own property. We couldn't own investments. We barely were working. And when we did go to work, that money was not owned by us. It went back into the household. It went into the hands of men. So when we look at those histories, going back to imprinting and neurolinguistic programming, is that we learned how to manage money. We learned how to spend money, but we were never taught how to do anything else with it. enter in the Dave Ramseys of the world and the shame-based language when it comes to money. Well, if it's not ours, we don't own it. And up to a decade ago, only 15% of the world's wealth was owned by women. And disproportionately owned, by the way. It was only the top 5% of women, and it still pretty much is today that owns the majority of wealth for women. So 15% a decade ago, 30% today, so more women are owning more money. But we have generations of history before us that we did not inherit that mindset to go along with it. And so the shame-based conversation came from the fact that it wasn't ours. And so we'd go spend it because that was our job in the household, go buy groceries, go take care of the kids, go buy clothing. But we were only given a fixed amount to deal with in the household, and it wasn't ours. So who's listening to this right now who gets this conversation where we're making decisions with money and then immediately made wrong for it?
Yeah.
We make decisions with spending money and immediately we have someone to answer to.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't feel good. But even if that's not your current reality, it could have been your generational history and it's imprinted into your neurology when it comes to money. So you're combating all of that, confronting a new history for women. We are birthing a new history of women financially as we speak.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into if I could say it, neurolinguistic programming, or
Sure.
NLP, and talk about what it is, because we've mentioned it a couple of times, and I want to be sure we get a good description of what it is that we're talking about for someone who might not have heard that term before.
Okay, neurolinguistic programming is how our brain, so neuro, brain, linguistic, language, neurolinguistic programming. It's how we take in information individually, how we make sense of it. We're taking in information 11 million bits per second, and our brain is deleting it, distorting it, or generalizing it at all times. And then we're making sense of it. We're internalizing it, which creates states, happiness or not happiness, sadness, different states and behaviors based on how we're processing and interpreting information. Well, how did we learn how to become humans? From the humans who raised us. So before the age of 7, we took in the world around us, what we were taught, what languages, what foods, like think back to your childhood. It all relates to money because based on the world that we grew up in, that all installed and imprinted into us and created belief systems that are not facts, but we treat them as though they're facts. So we're walking around with beliefs or interpretations of the world around us. And then we fast forward, become adults and start thinking for ourselves, but the groundwork has been laid. And so if you grew up, which the women that I work with predominantly and men grew up in a world of scarcity, there wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if there was enough, there were conversations in the household that there weren't enough. Well, where do those come from? They come from our parents, our grandparents, and their parents and generations before us. And in order for us to have the real breakthrough that it is that we're looking for when it comes to money, we have to challenge the way that we operate. And it starts by taking a look back at what imprinted into us. What beliefs do we have as a result of that? And then the real breakthrough comes by saying that is not true anymore. And I'm going to learn how to operate in a new way. But it takes work because it's so unconscious.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've developed these neurolinguistic programs in our minds that and how we interpret life and money and all these things. And now we have this core problem with financial advice being delivered to women. And so how do we start to change it?
Well, we have to acknowledge first that it exists.
Okay.
So stop resisting it. What resists persists. We know you're in the finance world. I'm in the finance world. We know that women are less likely to stay with their financial advisor because we're being talked down to in those conversations. And women, we have over the last 2 decades, we figured out that education, there's something to do with education, that if we're just educated more and we know more, that we're going to do better. To a certain extent, that's true. So as you've seen, and I've seen for sure, this wildfire of content on social media, TikTok influencers, people educating about what's a Roth IRA, what's this, what's that. So we're learning new concepts. But then we have to take new action. And I think that's where women get stuck because we have all of this neurology to deal with, shame, emotions to deal with. and we want to take new action. And even if we do, we have to break through and we have to heal the parts of us that tell us that even if we have $1 million in the bank, we're not worthy. Or even if we have $50,000 in the bank, we're not broke, but we might feel that way. And so what the finance industry has always done is it's dealt with financial products. You're being sold through the finance industry different products and different investment strategies and financial plans. It all has to do with knowledge base versus the actual neurology and states and beliefs. And the finance industry traditionally has not caught up to that because people who go into the finance industry don't want to deal with that. They want to deal with numbers. So we look to our financial professionals for these kinds of answers. They don't have those answers because that's not how they've been trained either. The finance industry is out to make money, period, end of story, and help other people make money. I want to make money. You want to make money. But we have to deal with the mindset that is right now in collision with an industry that isn't serving women for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't know if you know my background, Lisa. I'm a CFP planner, did all that. And I love bringing the person into it and not being in sales. And I'm not saying that I won't ever be an advisor again, but when I had my own, I was advice only, where people paid me for my advice, but I wasn't earning a commission. I wasn't trying to get them to move their money to me because I recognized that in order to really serve somebody, you have to understand them as a person and teach them about things. And even if they don't want to be taught, at least give them advice that's not skewed by the idea that you're going to earn money if they move money or if you sell them something, and really just give them advice that fits them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I do, so people always ask me, how does a money coach differ from a financial advisor? For the first amount, a good amount of time with my clients, I take money off the table altogether. Because if we don't actually know what it is that you truly want in life and the vision for your life that you're trying to build for yourself, not because the internet tells you it has to be a certain way, we have to deconstruct someone's identity financially before they can step into a new reality, before a financial plan would even work. I was thinking about this interview before I hopped on, and I believe that the reason that financial plans fail is because they fail to incorporate someone's actual definition of success. It's an external representation of what success should be, or if you're going to have enough money. And for me, I basically just say, let's take that off the table altogether first. Let's not even talk about money right now. I want to know what is going to be important to you at the end of your life. And do you identify as a successful person today? Because if you don't identify as a successful person today, we have to figure that out first. Otherwise, you'll sabotage yourself every time you try to achieve financial success if you truly don't believe that you're identifying as a successful person.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And that's when I did financial planning, I always did start with the person. Thus, the title of my podcast, Real Money, Real Life. It's about you have to take yourself into account. And that's also my me money method. You put yourself as a line item, like you put yourself in your money, whether you have a budget or not. You should have an amount that you're allowed to spend without answering to anybody, even yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
100% on the same page with you here, talking about this. Now, I understand you have a 3-account method.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I hate budgets. I hate budgeting. I don't teach them. I feel like they're too rigid for many, many, many people. Basically, 3/4 of the world, of the population of the world, is not so analytical that they're going to follow a rigid budget. And for sure, you don't want to have a rigid budget if you don't value that. But a 3-account system is a very simple way of just baby steps. Like when people that come to me are, in their words, in financial chaos and disorganization. So the quickest way to help your brain organize is not through some type of sophisticated budgeting app and budgeting categories that overcomplicates it. It's actually just moving your money into accounts for different purposes and keeping it very, very simple and learning how to use money for different purposes. One is you've got your operating expenses. This is how business owners operate. Run your business like a life, run your life like a business. Put money in your operating expenses account for your mortgage and for your bills and your utilities. Put money in a spending account every single week. Spend it how you want to spend it. and then put some money in savings. So those 3 accounts, operating, savings, spending, figure out the balance of the 3. It takes some work to do that. But once you get down, to your point, once you get that method down, you're putting money into a spending account to spend, which means you're giving yourself permission to spend. No guilt, no shame, because that's what it's there for. It's changed it's changed my clients' lives to see their money in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very similar to what I teach my clients. So the me money is kind of like your spend bucket, but for me it's just specifically for themselves. It's only things that like are for that person only. So I have me money and my husband has me money, but it's only on the things that we spend only on ourselves. So anything
Right.
that benefits both of us, we don't spend our me money on. We spend our spending money on.
Correct.
So, but that gives us like, not that neither one of us ever had to answer to each other, but I was answering to myself because I was always afraid to spend money and I always felt guilty when I spent money. Not that I didn't do it, I did it, but that allowed me to not have guilt. And then in my personal life, we have a regular checking account, which is all of our monthly bills come out of that. And then I have what I call my escrow account where all my annual stuff comes out of. So any insurance premiums or biannual sometimes insurance premiums, things like that, they all go, property taxes, they all go into what I call my escrow account. And then we obviously have our savings accounts and our retirement accounts too. So we bucket that way. But sometimes with my clients, it's going to depend on them, what's going to make sense to them and what's going to work with their personality. So sometimes we'll add other buckets. Like we might even do like a vacation bucket. That's a separate thing. Especially in retirement, because at that point it gets harder to spend money and you start feeling more guilty and you start having more worry about whether you're going to run out or not. But yeah, the idea is to start with something simple and work with the person's personality for whatever makes the most sense for them. So I love your 3-method account. That's a great one.
It's a game changer for couples for that purpose. I love the me money method. I teach that as well. Have a joint spending account and then have your individual accounts. No questions. You don't have to answer to anybody. I don't care what you spend it on. Have fun with it. If you want to buy all of it in Chick-fil-A, go for it. Or if you want to save it for concert tickets, no one cares because we don't have that kind of tit for tat. And that'll save a marriage for sure.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things about this approach is that both people feel free, but they also feel in control at the same time because they know there's an amount to it and it's not restrictive. That's the biggest thing. Like when you start talking about it, sometimes people think this is going to feel restrictive, this is going to be hard, but it actually ends up being the opposite. And I'm assuming that you find the same thing or we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the freedom that people want is I just want to be free to live my life.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have any specific stories? It always helps for listeners to hear stories. Anything you want to share about any clients that you've seen some great transformations with?
Yeah, I think it's important for me to share that I work with really successful people. So it's not just like quote unquote broke people that need support. And I think that there's a misconception out there that you're either one or the other, right? You're either really successful and you have it all figured out, or you're broke as shit and you need a whole lot different kind of help with either one of those. With the people that I work with, I think and I have story after story after story, is that regardless of how much money is in their account, they don't feel safe or secure when it comes to their money. They don't feel like they have money. I worked with a couple. He's a police officer, she's a nurse. So they have great benefits packages. They make great income together. And it didn't really matter how much money they had or didn't have. The wife spent her days stressing about money. And it didn't matter if there was $4,000 in the account or $10,000 in the account or $2 in the account. It was the same experience. And so the first thing I did with that couple, because they weren't tracking their net worth, and a lot of people do not track their net worth. Why? Predominantly fear.
Yeah.
Predominantly. It's like, listen, you can run a $50 million budget in your business. You can track your net worth in your household, but you don't do it because you're afraid of what it's going to show, or you're afraid that you have debt and you don't want to look at it. Well, with this couple, they had the courage to, one, ask for support. allow me in, which I'm so grateful for, literally at their kitchen table to have this conversation. Together, we tracked their net worth. We totaled up their assets. We totaled up their liabilities. They're in their 40s. And for the first time, they saw that they were millionaires. And they maybe thought that they were or that they had enough, but they really didn't know. And the stress, I could see the stress melt off of the wife's body and shoulders. And same thing for the husband. They were like, we had no idea, because they were so caught up, going back to mindset, in their stories and their imprinting of growing up without money. They just perpetually felt like they didn't have money.
Yeah.
That they weren't born that way.
Mm-hmm.
They were born whole. We all are. But life taught them something else. And then when it came to looking at their numbers and making sense of their numbers, it never connected for them. In addition to that, we were able to look at their household money. I have something called my money mirror, where it's very simple. Like, let's look at your fixed expenses. I'm sure you have similar trackers, right? Let's just plug it in. After their bills were paid every single month, they had an extra $4,000.
Wow.
And they were like, and this happens a lot with the clients that I work with. It's like a light bulb goes on. They go, are you kidding me? After our bills are paid, we have $4,000. Where does it go? Where is it going?
The fog zone. That's what I call that. The fog zone. Where is this money going? Yes.
Where is it going? I said, well, if you bake that down, it's about $1,000 a week. And I could tell you exactly where it's going without even knowing where it's going. You have 2 boys. They're in sports. You have 2 dogs. You have a pool in your backyard. You have a gardener. Like, that's where all of this $1,000 a week, when you start to chip it down, that's where it's going. But we can work with that. And your method, I think, is brilliant. Similar to mine is, now let's take some of that and put it in a bucket every single week and start looking at it and using it from a place of empowerment and choice versus fear and scarcity.
Yeah. And I want to go back to what you said about, it's not that you don't have money or you do have money, or that you're smart or not smart. I think the thing that I always say is, everybody, every single person has a money personality.
Yep.
And that's what this boils down to. It doesn't matter how many dollars you have in the bank or how many dollars you don't have in the bank. You have a money personality, and it's affecting your relationship with money, and starting to understand that and look at your money in a way that fits you is the part that gets you successful in feeling better about money.
Agreed. And I think it's important to distinguish there that we operate from one of 2 places. We operate from limiting beliefs, or we operate from core strengths. And that you have to spend some time on pulling apart and realizing that you may have a money personality that actually is modeled from parents. That is not inherently yours, because that's not how you operate. So authentically, for me, I do the money personality test in my world too. I grew up as a cheap chip. My parents were blue collar parents. We had enough, but never more than enough. It was always save, 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 and pinch your pennies. Well, I grew up not taking risk financially, feeling bad if I did. So I identified as a cheap chip when I first took the money personality. But because of my programming and my imprinting, that's who I thought I was. When I did some internal work, and the same work that I do with my clients today, I was able to go, no, wait a minute. When I'm in my power and my strength, I'm actually a dreamer money personality, which is someone who naturally risks big and dreams big. When I step into that lane financially, magic happens. When I operate from an identity that is from my family, I'm playing small, I'm not taking risk, and I'm not happy. So the question is, who are you authentically?
Yeah.
And learn how to operate with money in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes into, like you said, limiting beliefs and things that we tell ourselves. So I grew up, my parents never talked about money. I knew that we just lived paycheck to paycheck. I don't know how I knew that. I just did. There wasn't a lot in savings. They weren't actively saving or trying to save. And I just knew that. That's how I perpetuated through a lot of my life, was just living paycheck to paycheck and thinking, like, as long as I'm not bouncing a check, I can pay all my bills on time. I don't have debt other than maybe a mortgage, sometimes a car payment. Like, I'm doing fantastic, right?
That's right.
Because I didn't know any better. I mean,
That's right.
I didn't switch careers into financial services until much later in life. And I lived a
Me
lot
too.
of my life without really knowing much about it. And I wish I had
Yeah.
had the resources that are available today, like you and me.
Same. I'm so grateful for this really budding industry. When I wrote my first book in 2017, money coaching really wasn't a thing. Dave Ramsey was kind of like the only money coach out there, Susie Orman a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But 10 years later now, we've got so many people in this industry. Money coaching is becoming so common and popular. I think that that's the disruption that's happening in the industry is people are starting to get, oh, wow, this is way beyond just having an investment portfolio.
Yeah. The chances of you being successful with money and doing things the way people are just telling you to do it, especially when there's a lot of shame involved around it, asking, can I afford this? Well, if you really want it, you can afford it. You just need to figure out how to make it happen. Things like that. And leaning into who you are and understanding you so that it flows naturally is the key. And I love what you said
It does.
about you might be molded into, because I tell people they have different money personalities for different periods of their life. But you bring it have brought it a step further and say, like, you might be living someone else's money personality that you were brought up in, led to believe in, even though it's not really who you are.
It's not how you operate authentically, and it's not really who you want to be. So we have to break up and shift that so that you can step into your true identity as a human being. And then the money will just follow in that lane with you. I was playing it safe in corporate America because I felt like that's what my dad did. And then I was able to break through that glass ceiling for myself. I was making $54,000 a year and believed, going to limiting beliefs, believed that that was the top of my game because that was the top of his game. And so I had people challenge me on that, and I challenged myself on it. I'm making more money than ever, and I plan to keep making more money than ever. But I had to work through the guilt and shame of that also, because that doesn't mean that I'm making my mom or my mom's mom wrong by pursuing my career goals and my dreams.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So I always do like to talk a lot about mindset and internal obstacles. So let's talk about if you're talking to someone and you're telling them what you do, what would be the mindset or internal obstacle that they would have would make them choose not to work with you?
If they don't want to take action, if they don't want to take ownership or responsibility, I'm not here to create codependent relationships or make decisions for people. So a lot of I was going to speak into self-trust because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't trust yourself yet. And so you rely on someone else, aka a financial professional or a coach, to make decisions for you, which creates disempowerment and codependency. And then guess what? When you don't get what you want, they're wrong. I want to work with people who understand the power of learning how to trust themselves, even though they may not in this moment, but are willing to do the work to learn how, which is going to also require some failure and missteps along the way. It's not perfect as long as you're making progress. So I don't want people in my trainings or in my seminars or working with me who are not interested in doing the growth work that it's going to require for you to own the decisions that you're making financially.
Absolutely. 100%. And if I was going to be answering that question, I would say that fear is the thing that stops people. And it's kind of what we got to towards the end there. But it's fear of them facing their reality. And they feel like it's going to be bad and negative. And I think even those people that finally do come in and get coaching or go through courses and have that fear and they feel like they know that they're going to have bad things to face, once they get in there and they realize, like, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was. And there's such a relief when they actually know I know where I am. I always thought it was bad, but now I know where I am and I know what I need to do. And it's like life changing. And it's all this fear of this unknown or the fear that they're going to be told that everything is bad and wrong. And when we get in there, it's like, nothing's bad or wrong. You just need to learn and understand you and how you got where you were if you're not in a great place and how you can use your own personality and money sense to get out of it because everybody's
That's right.
capable.
That's right. Yeah, in the way we started the conversation is a great place to point that when it comes to shame in the industry, we're used to that kind of abuse.
Yes.
We've been conditioned for that kind of abuse. You're stupid. Oh, it's not your fault you're stupid. You're ignorant. It's not your fault you didn't know any better, but you're still stupid and you're still ignorant. And the choices that you're making are bad choices. That's like universally qualifying something. If you're spending this on a subscription or you have this amount of debt, somehow you're a bad person. And that's the shift that I'm working on actively. And I know you are too, to make in the industry, is that we are amazing women. We are amazing human beings. We've done what we've had to do to get to the other side of this conversation in our lives. And I champion the hell out of someone who had the courage to step up and make the choice. And then we'll figure out what to do with it. We don't get time back in our lives, but we can get money back. It's the most renewable resource that we have because we made it up. It's not even like food, food, maybe there's a limited amount of food and water on the planet. Money, we can make it, we can give it, we can earn it. It's so renewable. You have to realize that too, I think, in the money journey.
I love that. All right. So if you were going to give our listeners one thing that they can start doing this week to feel calmer or more controlled financially, what would it be?
Acknowledge that everyone's a mess. Acknowledge that you're not alone. Remind yourself of that. Everyone is just trying to figure out what to be, what to do, and who to be on this planet. So it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And also, because you're not alone, find a safe person that you can talk through this stuff with, who's not going to judge you, who's going to just listen. Specifically for women, we are so capable of figuring things out on our own. If someone can just listen, 12 minutes is all we need with a good girlfriend who's just going to listen, you can figure this out. And so remind yourself of that too. We can give birth. We can do anything on the planet. So when it comes to one small tangible thing that you can do today is look in the mirror and remind yourself of how awesome you are. You've been through what you've been through in your life. And you can get through this too.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right. And what is one belief about money that our listeners can let go of?
That you're not worthy. It always comes down to that worthiness. So it is time for you to let go of the belief that you're not worthy.
Absolutely.
Because you absolutely are everything that it is that you want in this world, in this lifetime.
Wonderful. All right, Lisa, tell us who needs to find you. Who do you work with?
Any woman, and really honestly, I work with men too, who's ready to do the work, who's ready to lean in, who's ready to face their own individual demons, and who's looking for a safe place to do that.
Wonderful. And how can they find you?
LisaChastain.com or the Real Money Podcast with Lisa Chastain or Real Money with Lisa on Instagram.
Wonderful. And you have a book also. Go ahead and tell us what your book is again, too.
Yeah, it's called Stop Budgeting, Start Living. This is a great first step. At the end of each chapter, I teach all the distinctions that we went through today and even more. And at the end of each chapter, there are journal prompts for you to go through on your own or to work with a significant other or sibling or someone with. These are great conversational places to start. So stop budgeting, start living. Transform your money mindset, transform your life. That's on Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble. Anywhere you can buy a book, you'll find it there.
Great. Thanks so much, Lisa. I also want to mention my free community. I'm building a space for real talk, fresh starts, and women who are done putting themselves last. So if you're still listening, thanks for being here. You're one of the real ones. And you don't need a budget to be responsible. You need a relationship with your money that feels like freedom. So if you're still here, thank you for listening all the way through, and you matter.
Thanks so much for listening to Real Money, Real Life. Want to see what's blocking you from financial confidence or discover your money personality? Head to the resources page at lindagriz.com for our free quizzes. That's LINDAGRIZ.com/resources. If you're loving what you're learning, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. I'm your Me Money Guide to Financial Clarity, Linda Grizely, and I'll catch you next time as we talk more real money, real life, because you deserve to feel confident with your money and good about how you spend it. The content shared here is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not financial, tax, legal, or planning advice and does not constitute therapy or mental health counseling. Please consult an actively licensed and qualified professional for advice or help specific to your situation.